Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of Cat Chat. All right, this is a good crowd today. This place is filled up, and if you're driving around and not at Buffalo Wild Wings, you are missing out. First of all, everybody hear us okay? We're all sounding good? Sounding sharp? Good. That's what we like to hear. I'm Keaton Galogly, joined by head coach Brent Vegan. Coach, how we doing? How we feeling?
Doing well, yeah. Obviously the outcome of last Saturday's game was not what we were looking for. Thought the guys really played hard, and each week you got to reset either way. So that's what we've been doing, getting ready to play Stetson.
No doubt. I mean, you've talked about that a lot. Just trying to keep it the 1-0 week. The next game is the big game. Not trying to ride the wave from play to play or quarter to quarter. Feels like this game is a real test on how you guys can handle that, even in game and now moving forward. How do you feel like your team's handling that test?
Yeah, I think we got back Sunday, and I'm sure we licked our wounds. We don't bring the players in; they just come and see the trainers and whatnot. So, we get them for the first time Monday morning, and that was the message. And we went out and practiced that morning. I think with the resolve, watched the film that morning, and we encouraged them to look at it with a critical eye, and see the things we could have done better. So, yeah, we've been able to practice now 3 times this week and feel good about the direction. And obviously that'll. The proof is in the pudding come Saturday.
No doubt. Now, you coaches get together on Sunday, though, right? To
Yeah.
start going up. What's the vibe of those Sunday morning, or what do you guys do? Morning, afternoons? When do you guys meet?
Well, the film has to be graded by noon. We meet at noon for the first time. So whether guys like on a road trip, grade it on the way home, watch it on the way home, that's up to them. So we get together at noon and kind of recap the game, watch it, or I watch it with both sides of the football, and then we watch special teams. And in the meantime, everybody's moving forward against the next or looking at the next opponent as well. So Sundays are pretty long days for football coaches, and it's an important day to be able to recap what just happened, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then obviously start that work towards the next team, because we do practice on Monday mornings, and we want to have some of that work going towards that next opponent.
So you're not sitting around eating a bunch of wings, watching NFL all day on Sunday?
Hardly.
Anybody bring in coffee or donuts or anything like that? Or are you guys all business?
Yeah, I'd say mostly business. I know in the evening we do have a restaurant cater in for us, so that's probably the break in the day. And everybody works at a different pace. It's kind of for the most part on your own relative to your position group, maybe what you're looking at, particular to offense, defense, special teams. Those staffs will get together just a little bit, but it's a learning day for the most part relative to that next opponent.
Well, the next opponent is Stetson. That's coming up on Saturday, a 1 o'clock kickoff. We'll be on the air for that at noon. But before we dive into that, we'll break down this game on Saturday, what was a memorable game to say the least. Let's hit just kind of some of the top-line stuff that I know you've talked about a little bit, and then we'll kind of get into some of the details. We know Tommy Malott still TBD after getting a kind of a funky hit there. Scott Trey Humphrey, only the 1 carry in this game. What went into that decision?
Well, I think obviously Scott Trey flashed that first game, and I alluded to it. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns. He had a couple other good runs, but he probably had, half of his 14 runs that he wasn't quite on the mark. So, you follow it up with a week of practice. You get in the game, and, Julius Davis, I think, really ran the ball well. Jared probably earned a little bit more run just based on how he ran the ball in that first game. Scott Trey's first carry wasn't great, and that was in some part just because of the defense they happened to play on that particular down. Obviously, we ran the quarterbacks a little bit more, so there just wasn't as many opportunities. But we got to find ways for him to get in there, probably in particular in short yardage. I think obviously out of that game, our short yardage performance was subpar, and we got to find ways to improve that. And getting the ball in his hands is one of those ways.
Well, and part of the reason the short yardage situation was a tough situation were the false starts. 7 of those 9 false starts were in the red zone as well. Very timely. But what do you do? I mean, how do you work on that sort of thing? What are you guys doing in practice to clean that up for next week?
Very untimely.
Yeah.
Very untimely. Yeah, there was certainly an element to the environment, the noise that played into it. Our guys are trying to jump the snap count, which is not really what we intend on doing, and you can get away with that in a more sterile environment. But that particular night, whether it was down in the red zone or out in the middle of the field, that's kind of where we got caught. I think our quarterbacks, especially Sean was in there, the primary stretch down to stretch, I should say. He was the primary quarterback, and I think part of it is he's got to be louder. So you go back to work on it. You emphasize it more and more. When those road games come up, moving forward, we gotta implement noise a little bit more in practice, and we really hadn't had a problem with it up till this point, but that was quite an environment, and when you're down in that end with their students. It was quite a bit different than the other end, and we just happened to be down in that end a lot more for whatever reason. That's just kind of the way the game played out. So, definitely something that we can't have happen again. It's being addressed, and I'm certain that we're not going to have an outcome like that again.
Yeah, you mentioned the environment. I mean, it was over 19,000 there. I mean, even on the radio broadcast, the Inside Baseball, we even turned our crowd mic off. There was enough noise coming in just over our regular headset microphones. And, obviously this team has been in front of a lot of big home environments like this, but they haven't really been in front of a crowd quite that loud maybe since going to Missoula 2 years ago at this point. I mean, even last year, I can't really think of something that was quite that intense in this game on Saturday.
Yeah, Oregon State could have been. I mean, right. I know the way that game went. It never quite got to that level of intensity, I suppose, as far as the game goes. But, yeah, playing in those environments, those hostile environments, you have to be able to, you have to be able to thrive. And we just, we did some things really well through the course of that game. But that was obviously something that really held us back. Those short yardage situations, we got to cash in, and we just didn't do it.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. We got Nolan Askelson and Sean Chambers who will be joining us a little bit later today as well. We'll get into that. Again, quickly, two things here where I know you've talked about some of it, but, the catch at the end, overturned. We've all seen it a million times. We've seen the views that they had in stadium. We've seen some other ones that weren't in stadium. Did you have any other clarification or anything else that you haven't quite shared in the last week? I know you've talked about it and addressed it on Monday, but any other clarification on what they had on what they saw in the video that maybe had them overturning it?
Not really. It was a Missouri Valley crew, and the Missouri Valley is overseen by the Big Ten. Different than the information we would get in a conference game. I think they're going to stand by their call. I guess they're not going to come back and apologize. I don't know if that's the way it works, but I think more than anything, you want replays. Replays there for a reason. It's to get the call right, and if they can't get the call right based on the replay, they generally stand with it, and that's not. I don't know. That's not the way it worked out for us. So we can't change the outcome. I hope, big games down the road. You're talking playoff games. Maybe the light shines a little bit brighter to say, hey, we maybe need more angles.
Yeah.
We need better quality camera work in these playoff games in particular, because that's, I'm just sitting down on the sideline hoping the limited technology will prevail. And that's not the way it ultimately should work. You should have enough technology to get the call right. And anyways, we'll move on, and it shouldn't have come down to one play. I appreciate our guys for giving everything they have and giving us that opportunity, but there was a lot more to it than that play.
No doubt. And kind of lost in it, too, was the throw by Sean was incredible. I mean, that was a dime. And on top of that, Clevan's catch obviously ruled out of bounds, but that ball went into his two hands, did not flinch, came right down. They definitely didn't overrule that because he didn't control the football through. We know that for sure because he stuck that thing, and that part was pretty impressive. But there were certainly some other positives in this, which I want to get to in a moment. But first, we're going to take a break. I do want to talk a little bit about the special teams. Brendan Hall had a great game in this, and the defense really showed up as well. So we'll talk all about that and more in just a bit. But first, we're going to take a break from Buffalo Wild Wings. Back after this with head coach Brent Vigen. You're listening to Cat Chat from Learfield. Welcome back to Cat Chat, live from Buffalo Wild Wings. It's almost Catterday, Bobcats, and it's time to gear up for another season of football. If you bleed blue and gold, then get game day ready with MSU Bookstore, the only non-for-profit university bookstore cooperative that has the largest selection of Bobcat gear around. Shop with us on campus at Bobcat Stadium on game day and 24/7 at MSU Bookstore.org. I'm Caden Galogly along with head coach Brent Vigen. We got Sean Chambers and Nolan Askelson joining us in a little bit. But, Coach, I want to touch on some special teams here. Brendan Hall, the new kicker, the do-it-all kicker for Montana State, transferring over from SMU. But, boy, he was brilliant in this game. Those field goals were his first 3 collegiate field goals. He had been 0 for 2 at SMU and pinned them down inside the 10 twice. He was pretty dynamic in this game.
Yeah, I think we feel like he can be a game-changing player, and whether that's happening through the punt game, I think he's 14 for 14 touchbacks so far this
15
year.
For 15 actually,
15. And then he's made all his place kicks as well. So, he's got a booming leg, and that's showing up on the kickoffs. And then, it was obviously a couple big-time punts, pinning them inside the 10. We look for that to continue, and he's handling all 3 and doing a great job so far.
Yeah, where'd you guys find him? Obviously, a lot of shakeup. Tip of the cap to Blake Klessner going to UCLA. Bryce Lighton decided to retire and pursue his professional career. But how did Hall end up coming up into the program?
Yeah, I think back to February. That's when Bryce informed us he was gonna forego his remaining eligibility and graduate and everything. Then our focus went more to punters. And Brendan had punted as a freshman. He kicked off both years at SMU, but he became a guy that fit our needs at that point. His backstory is, you come in there as a true freshman and you do two of the 3 things. You're capable of doing all 3. You get reduced down to 1. In the second year, they had a coaching change. They changed their scheme in the punt game. I think there was probably some frustration with where his opportunity was going there, looking for transfer. Mechanical engineering student. We have a great mechanical engineering program and engineering school here at Montana State, so things just really lined up. Who's looking for particulars, punters, kickers? It's kind of this tight world within the specialist community, and Justin, you did a great job of tracking down enough information and putting a list together, and Brendan was at the top of our list, so we're really fortunate that we got him.
Well, it looks like his range is pretty good too. Just watch him in practice. Looking forward to seeing just quite how far out that can go with him.
Yeah, no question. It's 60 plus, and obviously the wind will play a factor at some point, but we're at midfield. We're in his range.
That's cool to hear. All right, so that's Brendan Hall. I'm sure at some point we'll be joined by him. But I do want to talk about this defense. Obviously there were some question marks on that side of the ball after last season. But to hold South Dakota State scoreless in that first half was truly impressive. Isaiah Davis was slowed down for them. Mark Gronowski didn't have a ton. What did you see in the difference of this defense? This was their first real test. What did they do well on Saturday for those first 30 minutes?
Well, it started up front. I think we were disruptive up front. We were playing on their side of the line of scrimmage more than we weren't. And then I think we were seeing things well. Guys were playing fast, and by and large, we were tackling the football. Now, out of halftime, they made a couple plays, and you expected them to do that at some point. And scored, put some points up on the board. But we got 2 3-and-outs in that fourth quarter as well when we needed it dearly. Obviously they got the go-ahead score on that quick 2-play drive with a couple of big plays, which was disappointing. But by and large, really pleased with how our defense played together. Individuals within that scheme, went after it, and we'll need to continue to do that. The offenses in our league are very prolific, wide-ranging as far as what they aim to do. So we got to keep getting better on that side of the ball, because I do think. There's a consistency ultimately that we're after that I know we can reach.
Rylan Ort had his first career sack in this game, big-time third-down sack, which was exciting on a blitz. But also, just that whole safety position. Drew Polidor had a couple of big hits in this game. There's one play Polidor had that kind of stood out to me. It was the second-to-last play of the first half. It was a pass that was going to the sideline that ended up, out of bounds, but he still laid out and got a hand on it. Even though it was going to be out of bounds, it was going to be incomplete. The fact that he got there, I thought was really, really impressive. A, how has Polidor come along? And B, with his development, how has that allowed you to be a little more creative in that safety position in some of your defensive schemes?
Yeah, that's a great point. Drew's very versatile. He played corner, so he has coverage skills. He's crazy rangy. I mean, his ability to cover ground in the back end, and that play was a perfect example of then his ability to blitz. There was a blitz in that fourth quarter where he's at 5 yards and he's on that quarterback. He comes free and got a good hit on Gronowski. So he's able to do all those things. He's laid some big time hits on just in these couple games. So I think we got him in the right spot. I think when we got him from Air Force, he's a taller corner. I think we had designs at safety, free safety probably in particular could be his landing spot, and that's where he is now, and really pleased with his play.
Yeah, he had some big hits. It was fun to watch him play in that game. Now, some of the other interesting things about a game like this is where, fans, we can really see who you're trusting on the field. And at that linebacker position, we saw McCade O'Reilly get a lot of snaps in this game, rotating in with Askelson and Danny Louis-Lakepa. Tell us a little bit about how McCade O'Reilly has developed and what he's done to be on the field in crunch time.
Well, I think we see it as a three-man rotation. Nolan and Danny get to start. McCade's actually playing both spots. He's the one that rotates between the two, and ultimately, we're a stronger unit if we can have three guys playing and getting those guys off the field, and then all three of them are involved with special teams to some degree as well. So, really pleased with that group. I know they've all come up through the ranks, earning their stripes on special teams, getting a little bit more play, maybe as that third guy in the rotation, and that's that's a great building process for that position, and we have one senior in that group, two juniors, so we need some young guys, that continue to grow behind them. But, in our defense, linebackers a critical piece, and those three guys are really playing well right now.
Yeah, keeping the O'Reilly lineage alive at the linebacker position. It was pretty fun watching him go to work in this ball game. All right, I want to get to a couple of the fan questions. Dale was saying on Monday night, you said that this is a very good team, but we need to learn how to be a great team. What are some of the benchmarks that you would see as when this team is a great team?
Well, I think that's a long range thought process. You need to put up, week after week performances where you're not riding that wave. You're not up for one team and then you just play down to the next or whatever. So, like this is a perfect example this week. We got to come back and play Stetson, who we don't know nearly as much about as we do with South Dakota State, a team that we played a couple times very recently. But it's got to be about us, our effort, our attention to detail. That's really what we focused on this week. Great teams obviously accomplish a lot, but they really, in intents and purposes, they maximize what they're capable of doing. And that isn't always the end game of a national championship necessarily. But does that team rise to its potential? And that's where I think we feel like this team has a lot of potential. But potential, is only a starting point. So, stack up some good to very good performances. Continue to get some wins. I know on the left-hand side of the win-loss column, obviously, and just be there every week. Show up with a team that's resilient, that can work through some things and find ways to win. I think those are all marks of the team we want to become.
James also wanted to ask about the offense. Just simply, how do you feel like you can find a little more balance on the offensive side?
Well, I think that's each week is probably its own animal as far as that goes. I think we go in each week with intention of being balanced. Sometimes the game takes on its own form. I know we weren't in any way, shape, or form balanced last week. There was some field position. We were staying ahead of the chains for the most part. We were getting a lot of smaller. We didn't get a lot of big plays in that game, but there was a lot of 6s and 8s. Plays of that nature, and generally, you're gonna do what's working. I know, I say that, and it didn't work all the way down the field. So we have to find ways to get our tight ends more involved for sure. Our receiving core has been a little short to this point, but still work with the guys we have. Our quarterbacks are capable passers. I know we've protected well when we've had to protect so far this year. So it's just a matter of saying, hey, we're gonna do this, stick to the plan, and let it play out.
Yeah, and part of that passing game is Clevan Thomas. He's already made some really good catches, has made an impact. He's obviously working hard on the outside, but seventh-year guy, got a chance to come back for a second year here. How has he been a leader in the locker room, and what has he been bringing to the team specifically this season?
Well, there was a big transition with Clevan in deciding to come back. I was deciding to come back because he really fell in love with this place, with his teammates. And I think from that point forward, and I'm talking December last year, I think he said, okay, I can be a leader now. I'm not just a guy that came here for 5 months, 6 months like his original plan probably was. So he's been really good by example. He's a tremendous worker when it comes to the weight room and just taking care of his body. But I think he's continued to become a more vocal guy. He's certainly one of them. He is the oldest guy in the receiver room. But as far as even time here, that's a pretty mixed group. A lot of those guys haven't been here for a long time. So I think in particular with those receivers, he's really stepped up.
No doubt. All right, well, we got some more to get to here, but first I want to remind you that Universal Athletic has been a proud supporter of Bobcat Athletics for over 45 years. Check out their great selection of Bobcat apparel and accessories for all your game day needs. Go Cats. Okay, on the other side of this timeout, we'll be joined by Sean Chambers, and later we'll talk with Nolan Askelson. But first, a timeout from Buffalo Wild Wings. This is Cat Chat from Learfield. All right, make sure you've got your raffle tickets out and ready to go. What are we giving away? We've got a camo Bobcat hat with an American flag imprinted in a Montana state outline with a cat head logo. That one's pretty good. And military appreciation is this game against Stetson, so timely cap. All right, I'm going to read the last four numbers of your raffle ticket. Last four numbers, 6933. 6933. We got it? Bingo. We are back live at Cat Chat at Buffalo Wild Wings, the official radio show of head coach Brent Vigen of Bobcat Athletics. You can enjoy this show over wings and beer every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. only on or at Buffalo Wild Wings. I'm Keaton Galogly, joined now by Sean Chambers. Sean, how we doing? How we feeling?
Feeling good, yeah. Feeling better for sure.
Nice to hear some friendly cheers at Buffalo Wild Wings. Another great crowd today. But all right, well let's just get into things, man. Let's talk about this game on Saturday. Quite the emotional roller coaster ride there through the game, at the end of the game, on the plane ride, I'm sure. But just tell me a little bit about the emotions of seeing Cleveland make the catch, the official putting the arms up, and then hearing over the PA that you got to go back to work for one more second.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. What I thought was cool was when they threw the touchdown signal up, the whole entire stadium went silent, finally. So I thought that was cool. And, I mean, I don't know. It was kind of something out of a movie, I guess. It was kind of a dream, and obviously the heartbreak when the referee came on and told us that it was overturned. So, and the way they did it too was just kind of heartbreaking too. I mean, he came on and said we got 1 second left on the clock, and the pass is incomplete. I don't know. That was kind of strange to do it like that, but yeah, it was. I mean, it was a roller coaster of emotions and a hard-fought game and. That's kind of what we want, though. We want to play in those tough games where we're going out there competing against the best, and we embraced it. And unfortunately, we came up short, but we know we can play with those guys, and we're excited for the rest of the season here.
No doubt. Obviously, a much different ball game this year than it was last year. But how do you flush it? I mean, obviously, you got to wear it. It hurts. It hurts because we care. That's the way it is. But how do you flush it? How did you get back on Monday and try to reset yourself mentally?
Yeah, you just got to remind yourself it's only the second game of the season. That wasn't a playoff game. That was a game on our schedule. We knew that was on our schedule, and we know that we have another team coming in this weekend, and we have an opportunity to bounce back. That's just kind of our mindset going into this week.
Yep, it's kind of crazy. It's only week 3. I feel like we've been in the season for like a month already.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the environment there. I mean, a tip of the cap to South Dakota State. They showed up. They showed out. It's what you want to do. It's what you want to play in. And that's the whole point of being here doing this. But having played the Mountain West as long as you did as well and coming here and being in some different places, how did that compare? I mean, over 19,000, the atmosphere they had really, it took a little bit to get going, but they were there. So how did it compare to maybe some of the other biggest crowds you've been in front of?
Yeah, it's definitely at the top of the list, or near the top of the list for sure. Their fans were engaged the whole game. I mean, that's what you want out of your fan base, to be engaged. And I know our fans do a great job of when opposing offenses are on the field, they make it really hard and a tough time for them, and that's what they did for us, or at least they tried to. So they did a good job, so tip of the cap to them. Yeah,
that's the way it goes. And they worked hard. They did all of their different promotions. They did their blackout game. They did their beef bowl, which they did actually auction off a steer like a cow during halftime. They didn't bring the cow out onto halftime, but they had like 4 or 5 people out on the field, and they had their little markers so they could kind of raise up. And I don't know what it went for because I was still working at that point, but we talked about it last week. So they did actually auction off a cow at halftime. So at least there's that. Anyway, we're talking with quarterback Sean Chambers. You got hurt in that game last year, the final game of that first drive. What happened on that play? What happened on that injury last year?
Yeah, I couldn't really tell you. I think the play before is when I injured myself, and then we were going fast, and then we scored. And then I got up, and it was really cold outside, obviously. And then I was running off the field, and my foot kind of felt funny, like it wasn't in the right
spot,
places. Yeah. And then so I get to the sideline, and I was just kind of wondering to myself, is it cold or is my foot actually messed up? And then I had the doctor check it out, and we got some X-rays and whatnot, and it was actually messed up. So, that's kind of how it happened. I don't know what I did to mess it up, but
So what was the rehab process like?
It was long. It's kind of like every other rehab process. Fortunately, fortunately for myself, it wasn't my first rehab process, so I knew what to expect. But it was just kind of put your head down, go to work, and get back as soon as possible. So.
And now you're back scoring touchdowns and getting things moving in the right direction.
Trying to, yes.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about being a captain here. Now, you were a captain at Wyoming, right?
I was.
For how many years?
3 years.
3-year captain there, first-year captain here. So you've been a captain for 4 seasons in your college career, right?
Yes, sir.
That's pretty impressive stuff to be a captain that long. First of all, this year, why do you think your teammates voted you to be a captain this year?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. Same reason why I voted for the other guys, I guess. Just stand-up guys that lead by example, guys that you can lead on, guys that are genuine, guys that care about you, all those qualities. I really just try to make myself a home here, and those guys did a good job embracing me and welcoming me in and whatnot. So just try to reciprocate that and, treat those guys with the utmost respect and, be genuine to them and, show them that I actually care about them and whatnot.
Where did you learn some of that leadership? Like, where did you start to develop some of your leadership skills? Does that go back to high school?
I think it goes back to my childhood, my parents. I think my dad's a phenomenal leader. He's always taught me to lead by example and treat people with respect and be genuine and show people that you actually do care about them. So I'd say it started in my childhood.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about how your father's a leader and kind of how he led by example. Is it just with his friends? Is it at work? Is it the way he treated you?
I think it's just the way he lives his life. He's always taking that extra step. He's always showing us that, take 2 minutes to do this in your day. And the way he treats my mom, the way he treats us, just the way he lives his life. He's a stand-up guy, and he's a really, really good guy.
Well, we're glad he did that because we're happy to have you here as a captain at Montana State, no question about it. Final thing I want to touch on with you here, that Players Lounge, the quarterback Players Lounge came out in that week one. First of all, how was that? I mean, that was kind of cool. It was a lot of good info from Tommy Ballott, Paul Dennehy, Josh Perkins was hosting it. But I don't know, what was it like just kind of getting into that environment and having that type of conversation?
Yeah, that was fun. We talked about a whole bunch of stuff, football, life, Butte. I mean, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. So it was definitely cool just to, pick the mind of Paul and have Josh there helping us out. So it was fun. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and in that conversation, you said something just about how you could trust Coach Vigen in the recruiting process, and that recruiting can be a really, really crazy process.
Yeah,
I think we all know that on a surface level. But specifically, what does he do, both for you and just for other recruits who have come through? How does he garner that trust compared to what you see from other coaching staffs and other programs?
I think he just keeps it real. He doesn't sell you a fake dream or a pipe dream. He tells you how it's going to be and how he thinks it's going to be and how it's going to play out. And if he doesn't see it playing out like that, he'll communicate that with you. So I think the communication and the honesty and the care, I guess, that he has for you, and that goes a long way. And that's what he does, and that's what people can appreciate, and that's what I appreciated.
Yeah, it certainly helps bring in that type of quality player who maybe is willing to listen to that sort of thing. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other recruits out there that want to be told they're going to be given the world.
Right. I mean, everybody wants to hear that you're going to come in and you're going to start, you're going to do this, you're going to have 40 career starts, you're going to leave and go play in the NFL, right? But that's not, I guess, reasonable for everybody. But, with Coach Vigen, it wasn't like that. This is how we see it working out, and this is how we see it playing out, and it's kind of how it happened.
All right, so leadership is leading by example and caring for people, and honesty is just communicating and truly being honest. Just tell us what you think it is.
Just being honest, yeah. Whether it's bad or good, just honesty is yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, we got Stetson coming up on Saturday, looking ahead, presented by Vance Thompson Vision. Give us a quick scouting report. What does their defense do? What do you guys have to do to be successful in this game on Saturday?
Yeah, their defense, they do some crazy stuff on that side of the ball. They got some playmakers over there that run around, try to create chaos and create some havoc. They're going to come out and they're going to run their defense, which is what we expect. We're going to come out, we're going to run our offense, and we're going to try to execute as best as possible, limit the mistakes, and throw the ball downfield, run the ball, and whatnot. So
no doubt. All right, we got our third Catter coming up on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Sean Chambers joining the show. We've got Nolan Askelson coming up after this time out at Buffalo Wild Wings. Sean, appreciate the time and the insight.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll take a break. This is Cat Chat from Learfield. All right, we've got another raffle going. We have a water bottle. What is that, a flat Hydro Peak? Hydro Peak water bottle, and it's got a bunch of Montana State stuff on it. Do we know what those numbers are? Is that 1893? Okay. All right, I'm reading the last four numbers. Here we go. 6980. 6980. Bingo. Welcome back to Cat Chat, live from Buffalo Wild Wings. It's almost Saturday, Bobcats, and it's time to gear up for another season of football. You can shop the largest selection of Bobcat gear on campus at Bobcat Stadium on game day and 24/7 at msubookstore.org. I'm Keaton Galogly, joined now by linebacker Nolan Askelson. Nolan, how we doing? How we feeling?
Feeling good.
Well, welcome up. Welcome to your 6th season now. So you're into a nice routine finally. It's 6 years deep.
Yeah, you figure out a thing or two, but, it's still changing every year, finding something new. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's been quite the journey over 6 years, both for you, for what the team has gone through, a coaching change in that. So you would have had really 3 years under both head coaches, under Choate and Vigen. Tell me a little bit about that transition. There was such a strong culture here. So I guess my question really is, how did Vigen kind of blend his style with the style that was already here?
Yeah, I would say it was really smooth. I think Vigen did a great job of one thing Choate and Vigen both do, I think, is put the players first, and that's what was really important. And, didn't come in here and try to lay down some strict regimen and change everything, and kind of just saw what he liked and didn't like and changed the things that maybe he thought we could be doing better. And I think a lot of guys respected the things that he saw, and obviously respected him as a coach and what he had to bring. So, yeah, at the end of the day, they both cared about us, and that just really made that transition really easy.
The expectations this year are as high as they can be, which I'm sure is where you want them. But, how have the expectations among you guys in the locker room changed from your freshman year to now this year, your 6th year?
Oh, wow, drastically. I remember the first 3 years under Choate, his sayings, because he was here 4 years, and his first year he would always say, well, we're not in a good spot. We're going to lose big this year. Next year we're going to get better. We're going to win. We're going to lose small. And then the year after that, win small, and then eventually he wanted to win big. And that was always an interesting mindset to me to ever even really talk about losing like that or not winning big. But, yeah, now obviously we're obviously a very confident team and do have high expectations for ourselves. So, just the feel in the locker room is completely different. I think guys are confident in themselves and their teammates and the coaches, and it's just a completely different feel.
Well, and your freshman year, you weren't really playing too much, right? I mean, you were on that defensive scout team, is that right?
My redshirt year, I redshirted,
Yeah.
played in my 4 games as a redshirt, playing some special teams, but that was it.
Yeah, and so now you were the defensive scout player of the year, was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to go from that now all the way up to captain and number 41 legacy number. That is quite the long journey over those 6 years. And it's a question that I've asked a number of players who've come up here over the last year or two, is just, why do guys stick their time out here? Because obviously in the transfer portal era, plenty of guys have chosen to leave. But how do you feel like maybe your story is kind of an example to some guys that, hey, yeah, you might start on the scout team, but a few years later you might end up being a captain and a main guy for this?
Yeah, I would say just it's been done before. You come in and you see guys that have gone through that process. You see that coaches can build you and make you a better player if you stick it out and allow them to. And it's also just a culture in the locker room. I mean, I think guys want to be here. We have a really strong brotherhood. I love all my teammates. It's a fun place to go work out. 6 a.m. workouts aren't for everybody, but when you got 100 brothers in there doing it with you, it makes it a heck of a lot easier. So I think just, that you see that people are getting developed and they're getting better, and that coaches can do that for you. And then on top of that, having a real strong team that you want to be a part of, because you can feel that something was being built there, I think was a lot of it.
You almost look like you enjoy those 6 a.m. workouts.
Oh, yeah, I love them. I mean, definitely gripe about them every now and then, but I know after this year I'm going to be missing them.
Right. Yeah, what's it like going through this last ride right now?
It's bittersweet for sure. It's different. Everybody obviously always tells you it goes by fast, but I don't think you ever really realize it until you get to this year. And just kind of the way you go through things like Gold Rush, just kind of soak it in for a moment. You don't really feel the weight of it until you get there and you're like, dang, this is my last Gold Rush. Or even fall camp, fall camp can be long, but you're like, this is my last one. I better soak it all in and enjoy it while I still can.
Yeah, soaking in that Gold Rush game. Was there a moment that you just took a moment to look around the stands and the crowd and try to really absorb what you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice that we got a comfortable lead and kind of got taken out of the game. So it's kind of in that third, fourth quarter, I was sitting there with some of the other seniors and my roommates and just just looking around, taking mental images, soaking it all in it, and enjoying it.
Yeah, special Gold Rush. Really, every game at Bobcat Stadium is special because there's a limited amount of them. No matter who you are, where you are, for every single fan, you get a limited amount of it. I want to talk about your linebacking core a little bit. I want to start with McCade O'Reilly, playing with another O'Reilly. He got in a lot of snaps in this last game against South Dakota State. Tell me a little bit about his journey and specifically his development recently to earn some of those crunch time snaps.
Yeah, he's always worked his tail off, man. He's one of the hardest workers on the team, I think. Pretty quiet kid, just puts his head down and goes to work. And I think anybody that's known him since he's been here would probably say you saw this coming. He had a lot of talent, super naturally athletic kid, super gifted. But for him, it was just getting in the playbook and understanding the defense. And, I think kind of over this last year, it's really started to click for him. And now he's put it all together, and he's just out there reacting. And you can see his physical abilities on display.
Do you remember when the playbook kind of became second nature to you and you could let your physical ability take over?
It was tough because I switched defenses, obviously, when Coach Vegan came in. So it took a camp or two, I would say. He came in and we had that first spring ball, and there's definitely a lot of learning curves. But just by the way we do our camps and practices, I think by the end of that fall camp, I was pretty comfortable.
Yeah. Daniel Louis Lekepa, that hit he had to end the first half. What kind of energy did that spark for you guys?
Yeah, that was awesome, man. I love to see it. That kid's a spark plug for this whole team. One of the reasons he's the captain, man, he brings energy and the passion to this game. And, I love playing with that kid. He's a hype man, but he knows when to be serious and get to work.
Yeah, we've had him on the show. He does. He seems very kind of happy-go-lucky, but obviously there's some intensity on the field.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that's why I love him, man. He's always got a smile on his face, but he's ready to clean some dude's clock at any moment.
Yeah. And that, the linebacking play that we saw in this game against South Dakota State, it's pretty impressive. How did you feel like you guys performed specifically in that first half? To hold them scoreless, to slow Isaiah Davis down, regardless of how everything played out, to hold them to 20 points is pretty strong because they're national champs for a reason. But what did you feel like was really successful for you guys in that first half?
We just came out aggressive and physical, weren't scared, weren't playing timid, didn't let the opponent beat us mentally. We're just flying around, gap sound. There's some great play calls, had a great game plan going into it. But really, honestly, that front four, man, got after them, and that makes it a heck of a lot easier for us. So I'd give a lot more credit to them. We're doing our job, and it's pretty nice when they're each taking up 2 blocks apiece, and we just get to go make a tackle.
Right, especially against an offensive line like that may have a couple of guys playing on Sundays, or at least after they finish their time here. But overall, the defense in that game and just the pieces we see slowly kind of melding together this year, what makes you think that this defense can take another step this season and really be part of the backbone of this team this year?
Oh, it's still super early, like Sean said. It's only week 2, so – yeah, we did some good things, but there's definitely still a lot we could do better. I would say especially in the linebacker room, we missed quite a few tackles that we expect ourselves to make. We hold ourselves to a high standard, but just continuing to get better, bigger, and staying healthy really is obviously a big thing. But I think there's room for improvement all over the board, coverage-wise, tackling, up front. I think we definitely can still take a step forward.
Nice. Well, we're all looking forward to another step forward. If you can do that, this team's going to be playing as deep as we want to see them playing. Yeah. Finally, this game coming up on Saturday against Stetson. They've got the reigning freshman offensive player of the year in their conference, their quarterback, number 9, Brady Mites. But overall, what are some of the things this team does on the offensive side, and what do you guys have to do to be successful on Saturday?
They're an interesting team. They do a lot of RPOs. They like to do a lot of RPOs and then just kind of chuck it up deep and hope they get one. But as long as we stay disciplined, do our job, get good reads, that's one thing. They try to play with your eyes and get you out of your gap and get you thinking a little bit too much. So, as long as we're dialed in and prepare the right way, I think we'll be okay.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting back in front of some home crowd noise, certainly on Saturday.
Yeah.
All right, Nolan Askelson, appreciate the time and the insight, and looking forward to seeing you out there on Saturday.
Thank you.
All right, that was Nolan Askelson, 6th-year linebacker. We'll be joined by head coach Brent Vegan coming up after this timeout, and we'll get you ready to go for the Saturday 1 o'clock kickoff. We do want to remind you that Universal Athletic has been a proud supporter of Bobcat Athletics for over 45 years. Check out their great selection of Bobcat apparel and accessories for all your game day needs. Go Cats. We'll take a break. This is Cat Chat from Learfield. All right, our last raffle of the week. We have the $50 gift card to the MSU bookstore so you can pick up the gear you want. All right, here we go. Reading the last four for a $50 gift card to the MSU bookstore. Last four are 6943. 6943. There it is. We're back one final time at Buffalo Wild Wings for Cat Chat, the official radio show of head coach Brent Vigen and Bobcat Athletics. You can enjoy the show over wings and beer every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. only at Buffalo Wild Wings. Keaton Galogly with head coach Brent Vigen. And, Coach, before we take our look ahead, I do want to get one more question in here from Bob. He asks, what's your go-to when you need to just get away from it all? What do? You sit in the backyard? You go for a hike? What do you do to just get away from it all, if you ever do?
During the season, there's not a lot of that. It's probably mow the yard till it doesn't need to be mowed anymore, I guess. But
just making laps in the yard.
No, and like when we play afternoon games, it's not really getting away from it when you want to sit and just watch some football on a Saturday night. I know we don't play afternoon all that time, but that's probably during this stretch. I like outside of the season, it's probably, our kids are in ages where there's a lot of activities, summer, winter, all the way around. So that's probably what we end up doing more than anything, just following them around. It's basketball, baseball, and football right now.
Yep, just shuttle them around.
Yep.
Did you guys get any good trips in over the summer? I mean, any vacation time, or was it all just for baseball and stuff?
We got back to Minnesota for a long weekend over the 4th, and then spent the last weekend of the summer up in Glacier. A couple days in Glacier, and then a night out on Whitefish Lake. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way to absorb it. And geez, I think they're already starting to close things down in Glacier. We're already starting to get into the fall hours, and it's funny how quickly that stuff goes.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, well, let's take a look ahead. This next ball game for Montana State, a 1 o'clock kickoff, will be on the air for the coverage at noon from Bobcat Stadium. It is Stetson. The Stetson Hatters are coming into town. We're taking a look ahead, presented by Vance Thompson Vision. Now, an interesting team coming in. First of all, on the defensive side, they're going to be playing with 5 DBs. They've got that 3-3-5, and their coach, Brian Young, he's a guy who's coached a lot of defensive backs in his career where he's stopped all over the place. But what do they do? How does that present a unique challenge? And also, does any other team in the Big Sky play this kind of style and formation of defense?
Not really. The 3-3-5 has a couple different forms, and their form is, at its probably safest look is where you truly play 3 defensive linemen, and then you play coverage behind it, more of a cover 2 shell. But what they do more typically is, they're gonna engage the the 5 to 6 guys, those three down linemen, the 3 D linemen, and the 3 backers, and really play pretty aggressive coverage. So, I think Montana's got some elements. Montana's had an element of a 3-3-5 that there's a little bit of overlap, but it's kind of its own thing. I know there's a couple different, like Iowa State, San Diego State. They're more on the Iowa State side of things, I think, as far as what they're doing. Create chaos. Sean said that. Take chances. I think that's kind of the name of what they're trying to do, the nature of what they're trying to do, and they got some good talent on that side of the ball, in particular in the secondary.
Yeah, number 44 as well, Diego Davis. He's the reigning conference defensive player of the week after their last win. They're coming in at 2-0, but had a couple of sacks last week out of the linebacker position. On the offensive side, so number 9, Brady Mites. He was the kid who was the freshman offensive player of the year in the Pioneer Football League last year. And then number 12, Matt O'Connor, is the Villanova transfer quarterback for them as well. But what are some of the things they do on the offensive side of the football?
Well, I'd say they're a little bit more traditional, honestly. They run it and they throw it. They have good skill on the outside. They're not afraid to go deep. Both those quarterbacks have about the same amount of attempts. 12 is the one that plays a little bit more. They got a couple good backs that not only will they hand it to, but they'll give them the ball in space. A good healthy screen game as well. So. Multiple to say the least, but they do have some weapons. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be super important that we keep the ball in front of us, and then when they get out in space, that we tackle those guys.
All right, well, last game before conference play starts. I know you're not quite thinking about that, but here we go, getting ready to go in Week 3 against Stetson. And excited to get back in front of the home fans this week?
Absolutely, yeah. After being in a hostile environment, it's good to be back on this side of things and be in the hostile environment for that other team. So we look forward to a great crowd on Saturday. It looks to be a wonderful day here in the fall in Bozeman, and can't wait to get back in front of our fans.
Going to be like a nice warm blanket when we get back to Bobcat Stadium. Can't wait to do it. I do want to remind you again about Universal Athletic, a proud supporter of Bobcat Athletics for over 45 years. Check out their great selection of Bobcat apparel and accessories for all your game day needs. Go Cats. All right, if you want to hear Coach Vigen and I a little bit more, we'll be on the Bobcat Insider TV show tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. That's on MTN. So if you want to check that out, that's 7.2, channel 7.2 in Bozeman at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night. All right, that'll wrap it all up today. Thank you to Nolan Askelson for joining the show. Thank you as well to Sean Chambers for talking with us today, and Trevor Kamahook back in the studio along with Jesse Ropolato. And thanks, of course, to head coach Brent Vigen. Appreciate all the time each and every week, Coach.
Yeah, a lot of fun. The season's just getting going. Can't wait to be back out again.
We are rocking and rolling. Thanks as well to everybody with the Bobcat Sports Properties, Roger, Jillian, and Jake for all that they do. Evie's running around. I see our boy Daniel Sally bouncing around. He'll be on your women's broadcasts coming up, but not too far from now. So, again, next game coming up, 1 o'clock. We'll be on the air at noon on Saturday from Bobcat Stadium. And after that, getting into Big Sky play. Hope you have a chance to come join us here again next week at Buffalo Wild Wings for Cat Chat every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. And at some point, we'll get Coach Hauk, the volleyball coach, over here as well. I know they've gotten off to a really, really good start. They've already got a Pac-12 win, and they're going out into the Mountain West coming up this week as well. So I know they've been doing well. We'll talk to Coach Hauk at some point coming up here in the next couple of weeks. All right, that'll do it. This is Keaton Gilogly saying so long from Buffalo Wild Wings. Thanks for coming out. We'll talk to you again on Saturday. Go Cats.